Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. So first up for T&D today, we have this lovely new mug that, once again, some people from my D&D party got me. It is the Dandy Donut Factory mug. It says, "Donuts served the old-fashioned way." All of the O's in the little subtitle here are like dotted lines. We think it's for sprinkles, but we're not totally sure. It's a great little old diner mug. I think I'm going to start trying to get more little old diner mugs because, quite frankly, they're awesome, and I like them a lot. Inside of that, we have some Unplug from Econ Tea. I'm also looking for new tea brands, so if you have any recommendations, let me know, because I feel kind of bad just using the exact same ones over and over and over again on this show, when sort of the whole premise is that I do this whole thing with, you know, fun teas and whatnot. So anyway, not the point. Getting into what we're actually talking about today, the Unearthed Arcana that came out towards the end of May, it's here. It's a thing that's here, and I've had a good amount of time now to sit on it, think about it, read it over a couple of different times, and really sort of go through it in my head. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk to you guys about it. I know that it's technically kind of old news now, but I haven't gotten to talk about it yet. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at it. It's only been out for the last 9 days or so, you know, it's still relatively fresh, but it is obviously been out. People have been looking at it, people have been talking about it already, so I do apologize if some of the stuff that I say seems redundant or repetitive a little bit here, but I am excited to get to talk about it because I am a big fan of some of this stuff here. So let's get into it, shall we? So first up, this Unearthed Arcana is Giant Options, which is really, really awesome. I love giants. I think they're really cool. I think that it's cool that they are kind of leaning into almost monster themes for some of their UA and hopefully some of their future content that's coming out here. I personally don't know what this is necessarily in reference to because there's no flavor text ahead of it that really sort of gives it away. Obviously, the Dragonland stuff or the Kryn stuff was like, hey, the heroes of Kryn are this thing. This is just Giant Options. This playtest document presents a collection of subclasses and feats for Dungeons and Dragons. That is all of the flavor text that we have there. So we really don't know, well, other people probably do who are smarter than I am, but I don't know what the actual like end game plan here is for this stuff, and what sort of source book necessarily it would come out in, unless they are already testing forward for their 2023 stuff, which is not necessarily unreasonable considering that we got the multiversal race options and stuff like that back. I think it was at the end of 2021. It might have been at very, very beginning of 2022, but it came out, or it is going to be coming out in, oh my god, I forgot what it's, Spelljammer. There we go. So it's a ways out yet from then. So there's obviously a lot of lead time on these sort of things. So it could be something they haven't announced yet, or it could be a property that is coming out later. I personally would be a big fan of seeing them have a quote-unquote monster option for players as a supplement that comes out in the future here. Think giant options, aberration options. They've done some draconic options, like just sort of going through the list of the different monster types and giving us a couple little things here and there for each of them. I think that would be a really, really cool way for them to go ahead and kind of use these themes that are already in place and to sort of fill in some of the gaps that maybe are in the existing content that exists. I'm doing great. Anyway, let's get to actually talking about it. So first up, we have in this document, as mentioned before, subclasses and feats. Obviously, knowing me, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the subclasses, but I am not going to just sit here and read them to you. I'm still kind of trying to figure out the exact way to do this kind of rundown thing, because just like reading all the features just turns into me reading this to you, and you don't necessarily need that. You have the ability to read it. You have the ability to kind of follow along if you want to. But I also don't want to just go so vague that it seems like I haven't put any thought into this at all. So we're going to try and bridge that gap a little bit here. And we're going to see how it goes. First up, subclasses. We have a barbarian subclass called the Path of the Giant. Now, I think that this is an interesting choice to be build under giant stuff, just because of the fact that this is similar to a subclass that I wrote, where it really is centered around throwing stuff. So I don't really know why they decided to go with giant as the theme for it, but I'm not here to judge. I'm glad that they have a theme for it, because sometimes they just sort of seem to like pick something out of thin air and then combine a bunch of stuff together, and then you have a subclass. So I do like the fact that this is in fact a like cohesive subclass centered around the giant's might kind of idea, at least. But as mentioned, this is something that allows you to throw things. Essentially, you can be a ranged barbarian, which is somewhere that obviously I have felt Dungeons and Dragons has been lacking thus far, which is why I wrote my own subclass for it. I think that I like mine a little bit more, but I do like some of the features in here just as a base concept as well. And I think it's important to mention, as always, UA is playtest material. Homebrew stuff for me is playtest material too, but like UA is playtest material. They are getting feedback, like actively getting feedback from people all over the world on how this stuff works. So if something seems overpowered, it honestly probably is, and realistically is probably going to be something that gets nerfed ultimately, or something will slide by, and when it becomes official material, we'll go, what is going on here? They are changing the way that this works. Not the point. So anyway, Path of the Giant for Barbarian is really centered around throwing. You do early on pick up the ability to speak in Giant. You can speak, read, and write it. And you also get either Druidcraft or Thaumaturgy, with Wisdom being your spellcasting modifier. So really that's just like a fun little add-on at the beginning there. You don't really need that for anything, but it is kind of nice if you are somebody who gets mad and hits stuff, to be able to do that like little bit of extra stuff just to help feed into the role play of it all at the end of the day, because that is that's a good time, I think. So anyway, as I had written in mine, they went with in theirs, you get the ability to add your rage damage to thrown weapons using strength. This is centered around throwing more than like big bows or something like that. However, you also become large when you rage, and your reach increases by 5 feet, which is really, honestly, pretty cool. And I think that is a good concept. And from there, the things just kind of build off of that. The features build off of that. They begin doing elemental damage to help sort of like emphasize the fact that giants are connected to the elements and nature in that kind of way. That increases as you gain levels. It does also let you infuse a weapon that you are holding, so you don't have to have a dedicated throwing weapon to become a thrown weapon. Normal range 20 feet, long range 60 feet. So you throw it, and then it instantly reappears in your hand after it hits or misses, which means that you gain the ability essentially to attack multiple times in a turn with a thrown weapon that you have infused with this elemental energy. And why would you be attacking with something different if you can just be chucking this essentially great axe back and forth indefinitely? I don't really have a better word for it. You can just kind of keep doing it. It's really, really cool, and I like that a lot. You can use a bonus action to change the elemental damage type on that quote-unquote infused weapon that you have too. So if you go fire and you start throwing it and you realize, oh god, this thing has got resistance to fire or immunity to fire damage, or I'm healing it with fire damage, you can immediately go ahead, switch it to thunder, and then start whacking at it again and have a great time. Then as you go up from there, you once again have things that build on top of that, making it so that your elemental damage increases, your range increases, or your reach increases even more. You become huge, which is really great. I think that this is important, that you become huge at level 14. It's the top level feature. When you become huge, you gain the ability to grapple pretty much anything in the game. You can grapple a creature one size category larger than you. And there has always been this kind of like hump that you have to get over of the huge category. If you are enlarged as a creature, you can't go grapple a gargantuan thing. But because of the way that size categories work in 5e, a huge creature can grapple a gargantuan creature, which means that if you are the barbarian that gets huge, you can go and you can wrestle the ancient red dragon to the ground if you want to. That is a thing that you can do, and there's not a whole lot that, they can do other than roll against that, because grapple checks are not saving throws, which means that legendary resistance does not count for it. And if you are a barbarian, you are raging, and you have advantage on your athletics, plus proficiency in athletics, presumably, you're going to be rolling big numbers, and that's just kind of the way it goes. So the fact that you get to be huge allows you to grapple things like that. Really, really, really clutch. Because grappling, when it's a solo target like that, and not like a mob of enemies, grappling can actually be a really, really effective way to help shut down combat, because it will require actions to get out of. That can be legendary actions, but also it could not be. So if you get a dragon to burn its turn and not use its breath weapon on your entire party, that seems like a pretty solid turn to me. Even if you're not doing damage, even if you're just like chokeholding it down onto the ground, not a bad thing. That's about where I'm going to stop with the barbarian, because I want to keep moving here. But it's a really cool subclass. Throwing and the ability to get massive is, I think, a really, really cool combination that has a lot of potential uses. Druids are up next. Circle of the Primeval. This is, in my mind, the answer to everybody that has always been saying, well, why can't druids have animal friends? Why is it only rangers? This is it. This is what you get right here. This is what you got. This is essentially a druid subclass that uses the rules for the revised Beastmaster Ranger, the like refined, actual good rules for the Beastmaster Ranger, but as a druid. And druids, as a solo class, incredibly potent. So potent as just a solo class. They are so good. So giving them a buddy that they can control, also phenomenal. This thing ends up with a decent pool of hit points. It honestly will keep up with you as you level your character up. It's 10 plus 5 times your druid level, which is the average of a druid hit die as you go up. So it will fall behind a touch if you have a constitution modifier of pretty much anything, but it'll keep pace with you for the most part, which is really good too. Additionally to that, you go ahead and you use a wild shape to summon this beast, but then it stays until it's reduced to 0 hit points or you die, which means that you can do it one day and then you can just have it for as long as it sticks around. And then if it is reduced to 0 hit points, you know what you can do instantly? Burn a wild shape, bring it back. And it just keeps coming back like that. And it's really, really, really fantastic. Having more individuals on the field is always going to be a benefit to you, no matter what. That's really sort of the reality of that. You get, obviously, features that build off that. What I don't love about these kind of classes is that all of the features rely on you having this buddy present, essentially, which is fair, but with something like this, where there's effectively a limited use on it, where once it's down and gone, and you're out of wild shape suddenly, and you can't get your buddy back, and suddenly all of your subclass features are useless to you. Or Beastmaster Ranger, where like if your animal companion goes down, suddenly you just have to wait until you can resummon one. Like, that is the drawback of these things. I understand that, and it gets tough, but with at least this one, it is keeping pace with you for the most part. So there's not a whole lot to say here, because it is very similar to a Beastmaster Ranger's sort of thing, except that you can use it almost as a familiar, in that when you cast spells, it can be cast from your companion spot or you, and it gets evasion, similar to how Beastmaster companions do. Starting at 10th level, it becomes large, which is great, and you can give it either a climbing speed or a swimming speed when you summon it, and it gives you the ability to potentially frighten some stuff. And then at 14th level, when it levels up for the final time, it becomes huge. You can use a bonus action to spend a spell slot of any level, including first level, very important here, to give it features for an hour that could potentially make it huge. Again, you can grapple large things, or when you can grapple gargantuan things, you can obviously grapple large things. You can grapple gargantuan things when you are huge. Plus temporary hit points, it deals more damage, and it gets faster, depending on how high the spell slot is. It is a really cool like transformation kind of thing that I think they are going to hopefully implement very, very well. I'm realizing that I need to speed it up here a little bit. Next up, we have the Wizard subclass, the Rune Crafter. This one I think is also very cool. I think really, obviously, I've said it each time. All three of these are really cool. I like the Wizard because this one borders more on the lines of like a witch almost, as opposed to a more traditional like studied wizard sort of subclass. In that when you cast spells, you can create these runes. You can use these runes to like boost yourself, boost your allies, boost things around you, which is cool. It makes a support wizard without having to take a bunch of support spells, which I think is really awesome. You can use runes equal to a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So there is that limit on it, which is unfortunate, but I'm glad that they have shifted to proficiency bonus so that you can have up to 6, depending on how long the game you're playing is. And honestly, it feels like you don't really run out except for when you're stuck with 2 of them. Once you hit 3, it feels like you have enough to kind of get through stuff. For me, in this subclass, the most potent thing that they have here is their level 6 feature, which allows you to burn one of your runic empowerment things, which is the thing you get to use a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, to succeed on a strength, dexterity, or constitution saving throw when you have failed it. Because constitution saving throws are what you make to maintain concentration on spells. So if you fail your concentration check, you can burn a rune and you get yourself that concentration spell. You keep it up. It just keeps going. And I think that that is something people are going to overlook initially, and then as soon as it like becomes something that people are really like conceptualizing and figuring out, it's going to become something really, really cool and really powerful. From there, you gain the ability to do more runes, slightly different ones, and you get to go ahead and use or regain runes when you use your Arcane Recovery feature. It sort of structures itself the same way that most other wizard subclasses do, which is cool. It keeps in sort of like line with the way that they level up, but that level 6 feature, to me, is the one that is like sort of top notch, really sort of pushes it over the top. And then the feats, they're cool. They're not like overly exciting, I don't think. I think that they are in the sense that feats are always great, and these are cool feats themed around giants. So if you are playing a character that is descended from giants or something like that, it is a really cool way to go ahead and add a little bit more of that flavor. Plus, they do have some cool effects, and there aren't any... There's one that builds on top of itself, but it makes sense. But largely, they are standalone feats, which again, I am more of a fan of. I talked about that last time. Maybe not last time. It was, I think it was before Strixhaven. So it was definitely not last time. It would have been the time before that, I think. But I think that it's cool. I do. The prerequisites for these really mostly are just the leveling that you have at that point so that you can actually take them. Quick example to give you just sort of a taste of what they are. Fury of the Frost Giant. There's one for each type of giant. Prerequisite is 4th level. You gain resistance to cold damage. And when a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to retaliate with a burst of magical ire. The creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be frightened of you till the start of its next turn. You can use your reaction this way at number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, then regain expended uses on a long rest. That kind of thing. Like, they're cool, random, like little additional features that you can add to yourself that will come up handy in very weird, sort of odd situations, but they can be really, really, really helpful. Like with that one, that is a repellent. Plus, you get resistance to cold damage, and resistance to a damage type is always cool. You know, it's not going to be a bad thing. But I think that it's a really, really cool full document. I highly recommend going and checking it out because, again, it's just got some cool stuff in it. I think that they have done a really good job with this one. I think they're going to cut a couple of things. I think they're going to walk it back a little bit, make it a little bit less overly powerful, even though a lot of it doesn't really like break the game engine that D&D is. Every once in a while they'll release something in a UA where it like will cripple the game engine. I don't really see that in this. I could have missed something. If I did, let me know. But definitely go check it out. I think it's really cool. I think it's really got some potential, and I am excited to see where they end up going with that. Moving on from that to the shows we have today and this weekend, because I will be back on Monday. Today, Friday, we have Mayhem D&D, Off the Rails, Oxventure, Just Roll With It, Strings of Fate, Rolling with Difficulty, The World of Low, The Crown DM, and Coming Together Naturally. Coming Together Naturally is sometimes on Saturdays, so, Saturday, we have Dice Funk and Strange Hungers. And then on Sunday, we have Super Idols, Roll For Your Life, Grinning Griffin, Dungeon Drunks, Library of Nightmares, The Chaos Brigade, Rise of the Forsaken, Chromatic Dice, The Stradcast, High Rollers, and Tabletop Notch. Definitely go check them out. Let them know that I sent you because, again, sometime someone's going to say something to me about it, and it's going to be funny to me, very specifically, and that's all the reason that I have for it. But that's everything I have to talk to you guys about. So, thank you very much for tuning in and making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there's a link in the description of this episode. And go ahead and follow it and take a look. See what you think. But that's everything I have for you, I think. So, with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.